Hey Kings and Dragons, Dragon King 551 here, and today we're going to do another Star Wars video about why and how I feel the sequels should have been written and how bad they truly were. So, obviously, I'm going to bring out some important facts from each aspect of the movies first, then I'll talk about why they're so bad in their way and why people are so wrong in so many levels and believe that the prequels are worse than what they really think. The prequels are great. I have no problem with the prequels. Looking back at them, I thought they were bad originally, but I never thought how bad Disney could make a Star Wars movie compared to the way George Lucas made a Star Wars movie, and that's why I feel they're so much better. So obviously, let's get into one of the important facts in Force Awakens. So obviously, Rey should have been a Skywalker since Force Awakens. I mean, it just makes sense. The trilogy is the Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker trilogy. I mean, it is a little stupid. Once I describe what the ending is, pretty much everyone knows the final line. So, obviously, Maz Kanata, this is one crucial scene that I feel everyone should know by now or hasn't seen it. But Maz Kanata says that when you see the iconic blue lightsaber, Maz Kanata says, that lightsaber was Luke's and his father's before him, and now it calls to you. Now, that lightsaber should only call to you if you are related to the family tree, and that ticks me off that she was a Palpatine and not a Skywalker. It makes no sense. I mean, that lightsaber should only call to you if you're part of that family tree. So really, the lightsaber should belong to Ben Solo, if you think about it, or it really should be back in Luke's hand at that point, because Luke is not dead yet. So, well, Luke is not dead yet. I don't know why I put that up. Luke, Then obviously, let's move on to another kind of thing that irks me and ticks me off is that, okay, so Rey's a Palpatine, right? Everyone knows that Palpatine learned his ancient Sith abilities from the man Darth Plagueis, his former master. I have a problem with this because this is probably one thing that pisses me off so much is that Rey can heal Ben with Force Heal, but yet the most powerful person in the galaxy could not save his own wife from death, nor could the Chosen One heal himself from his burned injuries. Anakin Skywalker, yes, you have to be taught it, but if you're such a powerful person and the dyads and basically you manipulated the midichlorians. I don't know if anyone cares so much about that anymore, but you could not. So he couldn't save. That takes me off is that because he cannot save his own wife's wife from dying, but yet he was imprisoned, and that just ticks me off and rubs me the wrong way and kind of irks me, is because that makes no sense. You're the most powerful, you want to call it wizard or force wielder in the galaxy, and you can't freaking heal, but apparently since I'm related to Palpatine I can. First off, you have to be, so this is also about very crucial. This is going to be all about Force Heal and how it really ticks me off, and how it was introduced before Rise of Skywalker in The Mandalorian Season 1, which I don't really resonate with that. I don't that didn't irk me wrong, because first off, Guru or Baby Yoda, whatever you want to call him, his species is 50 years old. So, 50 in human years, but one in his species. But he's species 50 in human years, but he's 1 year old in or whatever. But he was at the Jedi Temple during Order 66. So I mean, he is older than he seems, but he's so young. It seems like he's so young. Again, you have to be taught it. So I feel that if he's so old, he probably has that wisdom and knows how to adapt to it. So I don't have a problem with him and that Mandalorian Disney scenario. My problem is that when you introduce it to giving Rey and making her a Mary Sue, if you would call it, I mean, everyone talks so much about her. What about Padme? I like Padme better, actually. I wouldn't care if Padme was a Jedi. Personally, I think Padme is a better character. Anyway, my point is, Rey doesn't know how to force heal. And somehow she can just touch the squid or the snake or whatever, the serpent, if you want to call it, whatever the animal was called, and she stabs Ben with his own saber, and somehow she can heal Ben, and that ticks me off. So obviously you have problems with that. Then I obviously have problems with just the fact that when Ben heals Rey, he instantly dies. Like, it makes no sense. And he didn't even know how to heal at the point. Like, it was just like he gave his life force to save hers. It's stupid. I don't have a problem if it's a wound. So, I mean, if you're animal, or like you get stabbed like in the chest or something, and then someone heals you using force power, I don't think that's a problem. But my biggest problem is that when it fucking happens to Rey, pardon my French, when it freaking happens to someone who just falls and gets tired from using 2 lightsabers, and she gets cripply damaged due to the fact of Palpatine striking her with Sith lightning, and she just falls, and it's not like she hasn't been stabbed or anything, she's not wounded, and he basically just transfers her life force. I have a problem with that healing. Like, I feel like if the vessel is damaged like that, beyond basically repair, you're basically dead at that point. You're still kind of warm. I feel like you can't restore your force heal abilities. So, obviously, let's move on to why the movies are so bad. Obviously, Force Awakens is not that bad of a movie. It's just, it kind of resonates with, like, Empire, also A New Hope. It's kind of the same thing as A New Hope. It has the same concept. You have a lightsaber battle, you have this, you have that. Obviously, I mean, you have freaking someone getting killed, like Obi-Wan. You have Han Solo this time. Or you kind of have, like, that resonate, chopping off the hand concept. Like, obviously, like, yeah, if Rey got her hand chopped off in Last Jedi, or in 7, everyone would have been like, oh my god, she's a Skywalker. Like, and I guess JJ didn't want to do that. But the problem is, Force Awakens wasn't a fucking bad movie. It just was a freaking, bad thing. And it just wasn't a good movie. Like, it was just basically a recap of A New Hope, and I just didn't feel like it was a very good movie. So, obviously, that one, I didn't think it was a bad movie. It was just a recap, so I thought it was, like, still a very good movie. Last Jedi, I hated Last Jedi. I hated it. It was probably the worst, crappiest movie of all time. First off, you have this man, the 7-foot freak of nature, basically, who can shoot Sith lightning off the floor, which is awesome. That's probably very cool. I didn't have him wrong on that. My problem is that why the hell is he not Darth Plagueis? Like, I mean, I guess he could be the first Jedi, but we don't have any aspect of his story, and he gets chopped in half like Darth Maul, and he's gone from the story. So obviously, that's a problem. Then you also have Let the Past Die, and her people were nothing. It's kind of stupid. I think he should have just... And also, Luke was a whiny-ass bitch. Like, I mean, yeah, it's called character growth in the 4th one. Everyone's like, when wasn't he a whiny-ass character? But he's only a whiny-ass character due to the fact that it's called character growth. And then after that one, I mean, he's a little less whiny and becomes more of a Jedi person. My problem is, in Last Jedi, you have all these theatrics that don't work. You have Leia flying through the air like Mary Poppins or something, or Superman using her Force abilities. Like, you never show how sensitive she really is in the Force and how powerful she is. Is she as powerful as Luke? Is she more powerful than Luke? Is she on the same level as Luke? Is she stronger than Darth Vader? Would she be able to beat Darth Vader? Like, I mean, all these questions that are never answered is like, is she as strong as Darth Vader? Like, if Luke wasn't the chosen one and Leia was the other Hope, And Leia came in and went, yeah, did the same thing. Would she beat Darth Vader, and would Darth Vader turn back, or would Darth Vader just still be evil? So that's a problem I have in the whole entire 8th one. There's no aspect there. You also have weird theatrics with the lightsaber. You also have Luke throw his lightsaber away, which is stupid. You know, that should never happen. Luke wouldn't be that stupid and dumb in the 8th movie. Obviously, he fades into nothingness, which is true. But you strike me down with anger, and I'll always be with you. And that's kind of an aspect that I think is kind of important, because in A New Hope, Obi-Wan says the same thing. You can't win, Darth. Strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can ever imagine. And basically, I feel like Obi-Wan kind of like haunts his memory, and he likes always, because when Luke and Vader are fighting, he says, Obi-Wan has taught you well. And that's kind of the same concept here. I mean, Luke taught you well, but I mean, you're not very strong. Moving on to why that movie should have been rewritten, you should have had a big reveal. And then I'll also go on to the, forget how to pronounce it, I think it's Hondo maneuver or whatever, the Hondo maneuver. Basically, you take the spaceship, you use hyperspace, and you blow up the cruiser. Now, obviously, I thought that was a cool scene, but it also defeats the logics of space battles and how they should have been fought from the very beginning. So obviously, like literally, you could have just had young Anakin Skywalker take a ship with R2-D2 in the prequels, line up to that separatist thing, go right through it like Hera did in the and burn that space station like she did in Rebels, and just use the hyperspeed, blows up the thing, and comes out and it's like, this is pod racing, basically, and just blows up the thing and destroys the reactor in there. And Luke did the same thing. But honestly, you could have just taken up a ship, blown up the Death Star by just increasing the hyperspace. Obviously, people are spectating that it's such a dangerous maneuver that's never been used before, but it's kind of stupid. The Hongo maneuver, or whatever you want to call it. At this point, it's a dumb maneuver, and I think it's stupid. Moving on to Rise of Skywalker. Now, I thought Rise of Skywalker was a better movie. Everyone says, obviously, they like Revenge of the Sith better than 2 and 1, and I thought this was probably one of the better ones. I mean, the audience thought it was really good. I mean, the critics thought it was shit, 59. The audience thought it was an 86 overall. Last Jedi, they thought it was crap, and I agree with them. So, obviously, I would have rewritten Last Jedi better with making Darth Plagueis. Maybe the theatrics are better. Maybe everything else is better. And it's just a better movie. So, I feel that one is such a better movie. And it's a better movie altogether. And that way, it's just better. So, Rise of Skywalker, obviously, there aren't that many details that are bad. It's just that, you literally have freaking, you have Finn being no character growth, and, pretty much you have him just yelling Rey every 5 seconds like an idiot. Secondly, when he says just a feeling that, that's where the stuff is coming, I mean, at that point, I'm like, is he Force sensitive? I mean, like, I would have rewritten it that he actually was Force sensitive, and he's starting to learn the abilities of the Force, because the Force, everyone knows that the Force subsides in every living thing. It's just, you have to be open to it, and some people are not as open as others, and that's why the Force doesn't work as well. Obviously, I mean, I would have rewritten that one a little bit better. The Force healing, I mean, the cloning was so stupid. I really didn't like that Chancellor Palpatine return. They basically pulled a Dark Lord maneuver. They basically pulled a Harry Potter out of your hat, if you would call it, if you would like to call it that. Basically, making Anakin's legacy pointless. Kind of the same thing of like how Harry's mom's sacrifice was pointless because now the Dark Lord has risen again. The Chancellor has risen again, and it makes no sense. And you just gotta literally get destroyed by the same man who literally killed you. Then somehow he can take your life force energy and make himself revived as a human being. If that's the case, then Anakin literally could have just cloned himself, went into a cloning factory, took his DNA, put it in the machine during the Clone Wars or something, made himself the same person, took all his memories and stuff somehow, transferred his memories into that clone as well, and basically, I mean, it would be the same person, everything that happened, make his arm the same concept, basically, and then he burns his flesh, he dies, and it's like, oh wait, I have a clone, I can just use that, and now I'm still Darth Vader with my regular limbs, and my potential is still very high, and my midichlorian level's really high. So, I mean, I didn't like the cloning, I didn't like how that worked, so I think that sequel should have been rewritten. I mean, obviously, Force Awakens is just okay, but the most thing that cringes me the most and makes me want to throw myself literally 50 feet and get out that window behind where Mace Windu got thrown out of, basically, is that Rey's a Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker is Rey is a Skywalker because of that last scene, and it just ticks me off and irks me the wrong way. I mean, you can't just, I mean, yes, you can choose your family and stuff, but at the same time, are you kidding me? Like, that's why you call her a Skywalker? Like, first off, I like how all the Jedi are there. I mean, like, Anakin says, bring balance to the Force, as I did, and that's kind of a cool scene. Like, I feel like that could have been kept in, but again, I think Rey should have been a Skywalker, and it would have been cooler to, like, hear Anakin say, rise, my granddaughter, and basically, bring balance to the Force as I did, instead of, the Chancellor, I mean, yeah, being the person. But again, I mean, again, there are some plot holes as well. For example, Darth Sidious tells Rey, if you strike me down, then all the power of the Sith will transfer into you, and I will be reborn in you, basically. But if that's the case, then why is it that when she uses two lightsabers and Sith lightnings his face off, basically, and blows him up to middle range, why doesn't she turn to the dark side right there and then? I mean, it makes no sense. So, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know why. Like, it's also logic makes no sense, because he does the same thing in Return of the Jedi. Strike me down, young Skywalker, and your journey to the dark side shall be complete. Which is not true. I mean, like, if Luke had actually killed him, which obviously that's going to be another video for another time, which I'm going to explain more, is that he would still stay in the light. But, again, it's stupid. It's just dumb. I really would have changed that plot hole and not even had Darth Sidious. Maybe I would have had Darth Plagueis, or perhaps maybe a new villain arises. I didn't. I could have had Ben Solo return to the light by the end of Last Jedi and do the same thing, but obviously not returning to the light until the last movie is the same concept as Return of the Jedi. So yeah. So those are my thoughts on the sequels and how they should have been rewritten. Personally, I think I would have scrapped the whole last Rise of Skywalker and rewritten that whole entire story. I mean, it was J.J. Abrams' story, but again, I'll bring up that fact where, so I have this fact here that I've written down, basically, that I'll state again, is that what I said is that Rey should have been a Skywalker since Force Awakens, because Maz Kanata says that lightsaber was Luke's, and his father's before him, the weapon that killed so many younglings, and and now it calls to you. I mean, again, I think JJ should have looked that over and basically said, oh, well, I said that scene with Maz Kanata, now I gotta make Rey a Skywalker. It's, the story is that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the story. I think it's stupid. The way that they wrote it, I would have rewritten it personally completely differently. I mean, I would have had probably the scene where Rey walks up to Luke. I would have had Luke turn, look at Rey and say, hello, my daughter, and then it would have just ended there, and then it would have picked up in Last Jedi, obviously, and she probably would have been just, like, in shock, and I think it would have just been cool, because I think Luke stated that the attachment thing is kind of overrated now, and he basically stated that's why the Jedi were weak and stupid, and Personally, I feel like it would have been a cooler story if she was just a Skywalker. I didn't really feel the Palpatine resonated as well with everyone compared to that. And also that stupid kissing scene with Ben and Rey is more awkward than the Luke and Leia one, personally, in my heart, because it's just out of nowhere and out of context, so it's just so dumb. Alright, so we have more facts to go over. Basically, Kathleen Kennedy was a terrible president, obviously. She had no direction for any of the movies. First, you have J.J. Abrams, then you have Rian Johnson, and then you go back to J.J. That was a big mistake, because now J.J. has to fix what Rian Johnson did wrong. Inconsistency for all three movies. Also, Kathleen Kennedy said from the very beginning to BS the media that they were going to bring back Emperor Palpatine, which is false. In 2012, when George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, he should have said, you have to keep me on as the president. They did not accept that, which was a huge mistake. If George Lucas was on, he would have been a very successful man still, and the Star Wars story would have been great. The Skywalker story would have been great. But instead, you have freaking 3 bad movies, 3 good shows without him, Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian so far. But without freaking George Lucas, the story is bad. The movies are bad. Rogue One was alright, but other than that, there hasn't been really good movies that revolve around lightsabers, the Senate, the Republic, the Empire. Basically, they're not good movies without him. And then also, yes, Rey had direction. Many of the other characters had no direction. You didn't have direction for Finn. You didn't have direction for Poe Dameron. First, he's reckless in the first movie, and he's a badass, basically, in the first movie. The second one, you make him like a cocky bastard who has no regard for safety or anything else and just doesn't care about anyone and causes mutiny. Basically, you can't have inconsistencies of characters either. So yes, Rey, obviously you had that, but I mean, Rey never knew she was a Palpatine. So first it was Obi-Wan with the theories of everyone thinking it was Obi-Wan. Then you had the Luke Skywalker theorists, because it's all about Skywalker. And then you also had the other people that are like, oh, I think she's a Palpatine and that's how that's going to happen. And some people were actually right. But again, without George Lucas, you don't have a good movie. So those are my thoughts on how the story should have been written, why they were so bad, and why they're not good. And I hope they don't make a Star Wars 10, or if they make a Star Wars 10, they make George Lucas actually direct Star Wars 10 to make it actually a really legitimate story, and maybe remodel 9 and basically say, yeah, she was never a Palpatine. It was just false accusation by Luke and stuff. It turns out she was actually a Skywalker or something like that along the lines. But those are my thoughts. So until next time, guys, don't forget to stay radical. I'll see you in the next one.